start recording button. I'll go ahead and do a quick intro and then we can launch into it. So, well, it's fine. You're as long as you don't like
Just getting
move
it
your
there.
head too much, the light works out. All right. All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Tactical Debrief. I am Joshua Joshi Howard, and I'm joined here by Nassim Fouchane, coming in from the War Masters and Team England off of his most recent WTC performance. And Nassim, you just told me you got done with part one of the England debrief. What kind of stuff do you debrief after an event like that?
Oh, there's a lot. There is a lot. There's a lot that's being debriefed. Just like performance, like what next steps we want to do for next year, and the kind of standard stuff that you'd kind of expect. Nothing fancy, boring admin stuff.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I know I've heard a lot about how Team France has this really long, lengthy selection process. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. How does Team England actually select its members for WTC?
Yeah, so I've been in. This was my second year. And both years it's been, we've got a Discord, Facebook, and people want to apply. They like we open up a thread, and there's like a application process for we taking applications for I think 3 to 4 weeks
Hmm.
via Discord, and then we go through a process of what is really from September, October up until April, really May, to around like
Yeah.
get a team of 8 together. Who's going to be some of the coaches, and some people will drop off because of other commitments. Some people will not make the team because there'll be set cuts. You can't have 40 people apply and take all 14 to May.
Yeah.
Gonna make drops along the way, and that depends on a few factors. I haven't been on a selection committee or have been captain, so I can't speak too much as to the selection process in that regard. But and what the specific criteria is, but essentially people apply through the Discord around half a year process, give or take, maybe a little bit longer, and they finalize the 8 that they want to take to WTC for various reasons.
Gotcha. That's a really lengthy selection process. And I imagine, like, you've played before, you have a lot of prestige to your name at this point. I imagine you're going through the same selection process as everyone else. So, like, what is the process on your end as a potential applicant?
Yeah, so it's pretty much the same thing. So what we'll do is like what will happen first in a few weeks, I don't know when exactly, is like people will go for captain, they'll write the manifesto, what they aim to do over the course of the year, how the team's going to be selected, and and essentially those people are then going to be voted from a group of their peers, like so the team and people who have attended WTC before via Team England as either players or coaches or other members of the support staff that have a vote. Then a captain will be put into place in that regard, and on top of that, they will have the manifesto and who the vice captains. So there'll be people who can also apply for vice captain to help out, and me for myself, I'll be going through like that player process. So then I'll just apply normally. You'll have to be. I think nowadays with the day and age that we're playing in, everyone's gonna have to be playing TTS, of course,
Hmm.
to catch up with the other nations and play just as well as them. You'll be playing in various scrims, these other national teams or maybe clubs, and going to team events representing Team England, tracking your performance there, how your reputation is there, and, how you play under pressure, how you play against top players, and that's just over the course of a few months for every single applicant that's in there, really that wants to try and have a spot for the team.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so, you go in, you have your application process. It takes a couple months to get in. At what point do you start trying to figure out what composition of factions that you guys are actually bringing? Because I know for this one, it was very hard because you had like Pariah Nexus hitting like
Yeah,
a
I
week
know.
beforehand.
I know. It was tough last year as well because I think, new edition launched and then we had like 3 weeks to write list and we are just like,
Hopefully, we got the right
let's
things.
go. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, okay. Yeah, so I think so luckily now we can somewhat have a slightly clearer idea. We've had the trajectory of the way the game is going. More and more armies are actually quite similar in power level. They fulfill different roles. Some armies are better at certain things compared to others. Some armies have more natural counters. So it ends up really depending on I guess what time or like what type of team format you want, really, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like France, for example, had a lot of armies that were able to hold the mid board very, very well. Death Guard, they had the Curse, they had the Black Templars, the list of the event, like as you could say. They had Eldar with like a million units. So like they definitely took a more stand in the middle type of approach. They had like Necrons with durable melee bricks that could reanimate, teleport around. So it really depends on the composition of with what your team and the selection community that picks the team, or the captain who picks the team wants to have as a vision for the team
Hmm.
and what you want to achieve there, and also tying that in with some players. You have a preference of armies they like to play, their skill, their adaptability with certain armies. So it overall depends in that regard
Yeah.
there.
Well, let's go ahead and zoom in on like the army that you brought to this one, because you brought the guard, and like you said,
Mhm.
there's it felt like there were two major archetypes of guard being brought to WTC this year. There was kind of the lots of Bullgryn, some artillery mixed in there, and then there was also some that were bringing like Rogel Dorns, and yeah, there he is, the
There
big
he is.
boys, the Bullgryns, the professors, right there. So I'm kind of curious then, because I kind of went over it. There is like this is an army that's supposed to be trying to neutralize a lot of the CSM and the Blood Angels and stuff like that. And then there's also the one that was just playing more Dorns that just kind of felt like it was a bit of a more take all comers list. But you brought something that was a little bit unique, lots of Bulgur and a couple of Hellhounds. So what was your intended role on your team?
So with my list, I ended up finding that well, at least with how I wanted to play the game, is that I had a lot of little pieces so that I had multiple waves in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I had loads of Catachans, so I was able to deny primary. I had Kasrkin, so I was able to skirmish in the middle, and then I had Bullgryn later on that after you dragged some people's firepower down, were quite annoying to actually chew through. On top of that, I had Hellhounds that were people kept asking me there were two up save toughness 10 for how many points. So they were quite
Yeah.
cheap for the they were quite
Yeah.
cheap for the run that they did with a good Overwatch. So like it just had a lot of stuff in the middle, and I and and what I kind of equate it to is that it's like you've got a lot of resources, you could screen a lot. You always had loads of point scoring potential because you had such strong midwood presence. But on top of this, it kind of felt like trench warfare, like you're just slugging out in the middle, and then eventually you tell your Bullgryn to go over the top with 9-inch move, and you just advance them
Yeah.
forward or charge them forward. And people can't deal with that. On top of the tank commanders that ordering all of the little tanks around with extra OC, extra move, getting the little extra movement across a few nooks and crannies. And with the shoot on death being quite annoying, people couldn't just would get into a gunfight with you because even if they killed you, you'd shoot them back. So a lot of problems,
Yeah.
and they just had such good midboard control that some armies, like Thousand Sons, for example, have very good damage, very high movement potential in that regard as well, and just a lot of damage. But they can't do that damage to like 5, 6 different units. They can do it to like 2, maybe 3, and then after that point, it becomes a problem for them to really deal with. And that was the list I had envisioned in my head. Control the middle, always have the winning side of a draw. Against some right matchups on your favorite board, you could always push for higher wins, which is what I was able to do occasionally.
Yeah. Now, you said something really interesting there, which I think differs from a lot of the conventional wisdom about Bullgryn, because you said that you were using Bullgryn in the second wave, but I've been hearing from a lot of other guard players that they generally use Bullgryn as their first wave to go in. And
Mm.
why do you generally use your Bullgryn as your second wave instead of just going
Yeah,
in as the
so
boys?
it's sometimes be the second, sometimes it's been the third wave. I wouldn't even really use them until like turn 3.
Mm-hmm.
So the usual play pattern would be you move forward with your chimeras behind with your Kasrkin, and you move your Catachans forward. Like you stage, or like your Bullgryn are now behind the wall in the middle. They're not just running out, and you kind of just stage and get ready to just attack all of the primary. Whatever your
Mm-hmm.
opponent moves onto the primary, you can always just deny it for at least a turn, realistically 2 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
So you would like, for example, let's say you score some cards turn 1, and you have to sacrifice a Catachan squad. They killed that, but now they have to score their cards as well. So they're going in the middle. Then what you do is you send your Chimera over with your Kasrkin. You come out, melt a mine, grenade, shoot, kill that, and then they send something else over to get rid of that. Then you reinforce. Then you spend reinforcements on
Mm-hmm.
those on them usually. after they've already eaten a Hellhound Overwatch. And then after that, you move your Hellhounds and your tank commanders and you start shooting. You get rid of that, and then they start to bring even more shooting to try and get rid of those assets. And then at that point, there becomes a critical mass where you've dealt with the incidental stuff in their army, so they can't like move block Bullgryn. They can't just dedicate other shots to shoot at Bullgryn. In that regard, there. Sorry, it's my cat.
Yeah, they're very loud. Is there any possibility we could get them on camera for a sec?
Yeah, of course.
No, this sounds like they really want you.
Yeah, I know. There you go.
Aww.
His name's Oreo.
Oreo, I love him. He's got the little mittens too. Hello, Oreo.
You're gonna stop meowing now.
All right. What a good little guy. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense then. So like the Bullgryn you're actually using as kind of this hammer for your army, right? Like you're chipping off all the chaff.
Rather than just sending them out and making soak shots immediately,
Mm-hmm.
you send out the other stuff. People still have to deal with those Catachans and those Chimeras and those Hellhounds.
Yeah.
And then you're dealing with that. And then there reaches a point where you send out like 12 to 18 Bullgryn on top of your tanks after you've killed some of their assets already, and they can't kill it all.
Yeah.
They can kill like 6 Bullgryn, maybe move back another, but then they haven't done any damage to the tank, so your outpower hasn't taken any damage. It's hard for them to move block because you've got a Hellhound. That's what has very good Overwatch.
Yeah. Oh, that's
I might
great.
just take him out the room.
Sounds good.
There we go. Probably won't stop at me hour.
That's all right. Oreo's been put in jail for a little bit. That's all right. All right. Yeah, I got a cat too. Sometimes he just like hops up on my lap while I'm working, and it's like, "Well, hello, little guy. It's good to see you too."
Yeah, just wants your attention.
Cool. So you go out with that second wave. I don't think we've done this yet. So do you have your list handy to just go over it for anybody who doesn't know? Because I was watching your games. Other people might not have been.
Yeah, no worries. Give me a second.
Yeah, no problem.
Let me check. Well, to be fair, I think I should remember most of it off by heart. Hopefully, so
I can remember most of it too, but
yeah. So it's Leontus, of course, with a Cadian command squad, with 2 tank commanders in that as well, and then the Gaunt's Ghost. Then I had a Cadian infantry squad, 2 Catachan squads, 20 Kasrkin, 2 Chimeras, 2 Hellhounds, and I think that's an 18 Bullgryn.
18 Bullgryn, yeah.
It was just automatic. I didn't think to. Yeah,
it was just assumed at this point.
Yeah, it's just like it's 80 Bullgryns in every list.
Yeah. Now there are a couple
interesting
decision points I saw in the list. So a couple of them I think we can kind of chuck up to the fact that it's playing on WTC boards. I know that on Hellhounds there's some people who like going multi-meltas and heavy bolters, and sometimes I see flamers. Why the multi-meltas in the hole there?
So it's just so good because you need to remember with the way my tanks are set up with my cameras and their Hellhounds, they can actually benefit from orders without Leontus because I had the tank commanders. So what I could do is I could just give the Hellhound plus some ballista skill, and you think that's counterintuitive. It's like, cool, now you have a multi-melta platform that has lethals against what's it called, monsters and vehicles.
Yeah.
And was hit on freeze and usually in melta range.
Yeah,
so like
that makes sense.
Like
that. I hadn't really thought about that because if you have Leontus already and you just have these 2 floating squadron orders that don't necessarily have a whole lot to do, it's just like, well, why not take a good gun?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And even on top of that, like the heavy flamer, I found like you don't want to go too far down that route because people just stay outside of the 12. They can't stay outside of the 18 really.
Yeah.
And it's not really helping you these vehicles. The heavy bolter is fine, but the issue is like I don't particularly care too much about, at least when I use them, getting ignore cover from too far down the field because with the way by the time you have line of sight, you're actually quite in that mid range. So like you might as well have the multi-melta to just do more damage in that regard.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's mostly true of WTC terrain, or is it also true of like UKTC or Pariah Nexus terrain?
I think that's I think with the Hellhound, at least with the multi-melta, I think that's just objectively correct to me in that regard because It's taking a multi melter or heavy bolter, and I want a multi melter because I can threaten vehicles now.
Yeah, gotcha.
It's
Cool.
like in that regard there.
Yeah. Other one is a lot of people oftentimes look at the Leontus squad and they'll take a platoon command squad, an infantry squad, or a platoon command squad, and a Catachan squad. And
Mhm.
what value is the Cadian attachment doing for you?
So what I really liked is usually people would have with WTC, like I always found I could screen my entire like my half of the board with the Gaunt Ghost and that
Mm-hmm.
from 9 inches and even most of the time 3 inches like the board edge. Um, so and what was nice with that is that I was able to also sticky my backfield. So by the time people have brought in the deep strikes and everything, there's nothing threatening my backfield anymore, so I can move that break forward.
Mm-hmm.
I can give it extra move with move, advance it forward. Leontus moves 15 plus a d6. All the other guys move 9 plus d6, and I just stage them up behind a rune. They can't get shot, and then I can start moving them in like 10-4 onto the into the midboard objectives, and they hold down those points for me. Because then there's still Bullgryn in front. There's still usually a few Hellhounds or tanks, like some Kasrkin that are charging them up and tagging them up. So they can't really afford to shoot that unit. So then they don't shoot me dead. Then I sticky that. Then I
Yeah,
keep pushing forward, and I just keep applying that pressure.
makes sense.
And it was just for an extra, what was essentially what an
Like
extra
5, 10 points.
5 to 10 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like
Yeah,
100
sure.
points for it. It made sense to me. And they have ignore modifiers, so occasionally it's not bad at trying to hit someone.
Yeah, if you
Quite
ever have to
else.
have Leontis hitting those Bullgryn, you do want those 2 damage to go through for sure. Cool. Now there was one really interesting point that I noticed, which I think speaks a lot to the teams and your experience as a teams player coming in, where I don't remember what team it was. You were playing up against Thousand Suns and you were on stream, and you had a
Yeah.
moment where you could go hit Magnus, right? And you said,
Yeah.
hold on, and you told your opponent, wait a sec, I need to talk to my coach because I have an opportunity to push here. And you said something like, it'll be, if it goes well, it's like a +2 or 3. If it goes poorly, it'll be like a -1. Could you speak a little
Mhm.
bit to what the decision point is there and why you needed Kyle Grundy's permission to do it?
Yeah, so it was Kyle and also like kind of like our head coach
Mm-hmm.
because there's always risk factors when you're going for a push and you want to make sure that the information that you're taking to your team with your score is as accurate as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're going to come back with like 15 points, for example, or 13, there's a difference in that regard because that might be enough to like win a round or draw a round. But let's say, for example, you're on for a comfortable 13 points and there's like not a reason to take a risk because 13 just wins you lot the round. But if you go for a push, it wins you the round more, that you don't need it. But if you go for a push and it doesn't work out well and you lose 2 points and that gets you a draw, now because of that decision point that you've taken there, it ends up actually costing you as a team. So just making sure that they're up to date with that and they understand.
Yeah. Now, one of the interesting things I've been talking to more people about in like the teams thing is oftentimes the coaches will come around and they'll just be like, "Hey, how's the game going?" What kind of information is good to give to your captain in order to make sure that everybody has the best ability to play all of the games across all the tables?
You mean like what sort of information we give them as the players in that
Yeah, so when
regard?
the coach comes around and is like, "Hey, what's the update on this table?" Like, what kind of
I
information are you giving?
so usually without trying to give too much away to also your opponent is
Mm-hmm.
like what you have is a matrix and that like well, if I play with this army I'll get this many points, play with this army I'll get this many points between this many points. And usually what I say is like, oh it's currently on matrix, I'm on track.
Mm-hmm.
Oh it's like slightly below matrix. So
Gotcha.
so below track. Oh I'm slightly above matrix, it's going well.
Oh,
Um or you could say it's like, it's only the first turn. He's done something a little bit different. It's too early to tell. Come back in like half an hour, type of thing.
gotcha. That's really interesting because the last person I talked to about teams, they do generally give like a score and they say like, a 12 plus, right? But I
Mhm.
think it's really interesting there because at the level of the WTC, even saying that number like
12,
that,
they're like, yeah, it's like,
right? And now they're like, now I can play to try and get that down to an 11 or something. And I know it was fascinating even watching the ending of, I don't remember what stream it was on, but it was USA versus France in the final round. And France, their elder player got 1 point, and that put them to the 86, which was
yeah,
all you need to do, right? And like those very small things can make such a big difference.
yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
that's really interesting. So moving on from that, I looked at the list that you were bringing to the WTC, and it immediately said to me that this looks mostly like a teams list. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and also no. I
No.
would
Okay.
definitely I because with so what I've noticed with a lot, it's not just my list with WTC, but quite a few lists at WTC actually. A lot of them transition quite nicely to singles as
Interesting.
well
Yeah.
because the meta is so balanced.
Mhm.
It's very like apart from like the extreme skews,
Mhm.
um, it's very like I would still take that list that I had, for example, to a singles event that has terrain format quite similar to WTC, for
Interesting.
example.
Okay.
I would still take that sort of list. If the WTC was tomorrow, like if I was playing the War Master singles tomorrow for WTC,
Mhm.
I would take that list because I've played that
Interesting.
list a million times and that's the list I know works on those boards.
Yeah. Now, okay, so it sounds like you play on multiple different styles of terrain, right? Because you have to play on WTC, you have to play on
Mhm.
UKTC, because I believe London is on UKTC, right?
Yeah, it's UKTC. It's in I think what 5 weeks,
5 weeks.
6 weeks
I know
roughly,
it's
give or
soon,
take.
like in a month or something. And then,
Yeah.
how do you feel as though the list transitions to different terrain formats?
So that's what I'm still testing now, to be fair,
Yeah.
because over since I would say since roughly around May, I haven't played on a single board that wasn't WTC.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
So I'm just like, yeah, so I was just being in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I still play that Alpine, still play like maybe a UKTC game for like a team event,
Mm-hmm.
ITT, but not really too much. But so now I'm currently doing the testing with Guard, how my list transition over to UKTC, how it does get like with that terrain format at WTC with more closed fire angles, closer range shooting compared to WTC with longer firing angles and like more open lines of sights and channels and how those compare. I'm just doing that.
Gotcha. So you're still trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, I'm
Gotcha.
still
Yeah.
like I've played two practice games on it, and my list has changed about 2 to 3 times already. Just
Yeah.
some major changes. Like overall concept of the list is still roughly the same in that regard, but some parts do change to adapt to the terrain format in that regard there, and also occasionally the missions, but mostly so the terrain format.
Yeah. I also have to imagine at this point you're probably going to WCW, right?
No, unfortunately,
No.
I can't.
Oh,
I
that's too
can't go
bad.
this year. No, I know, I know, I
That's
know.
that's that's a bummer because I was definitely going to be asking, is like, you have to go to WTC to UKTC, and then you'd have to go to the Pariah Nexus, and then
Obviously,
you have to come
I
up with
know,
a
and then
whole
GW,
new
yeah.
list style.
Luckily, I don't do that. I might do LVO,
Yeah,
but so
there you
if that
go.
happens, I'll probably be there, and I'll have to. That's another problem to figure out
Yeah,
list wise.
that'll be
Yeah,
interesting
until
because
then.
it's so interesting talking about like all the different styles, and just like WTC has like certain rulings on things, and FLG has
Yeah,
some rulings on things. And it's like, oh wait, so that like the tank
yeah,
commander is just straight worse on like WTC than it is on FLG because of the rule about like grenades and Doombolt.
yeah.
Um,
To be fair, that came up exactly 0 times for
yeah, it
WTC.
doesn't come up very often, but it is,
It's like, oh wait, the tank's worse, but it's like, yeah, but
nobody cares.
yeah, it's like it's fine.
Yeah, because especially because they happen at like the beginning of whatever you have
Yeah.
to do. But so that's really interesting. But I kind of want to talk about you a bit more as a player, Nassim, because the last time I heard you talking about why you got into the guard is because you had a lot of really big guns, right? That's why the Manticores were such a big part of your gameplay before. What happened to them? Where'd they go?
I think there's one back here. So they decided to make them not hit better than fours, so
Hmm.
they put it in the bin almost immediately. Going
Hmm.
from 10 on twos to threes with reroll ones and 4 rerolls to a hit on fours is a bit of a transition. So it's
Yeah.
not as good, and using lethals as well. So
Hmm.
not as good in that regard, at
But
least
there's
with the
other
manticores.
really big guns that we have in the guard that, we have the Rogel Dorns, we have like the Leontus battle tanks, we could take more
Yes,
demolishers.
I agree. And when those become good, I'll take them. Until then,
Until then,
I said what I said.
there it is, there it is. I mean, it sounds like you've kind of moved over to this very close quarter style of combat. Do you think that's something that is just true of the guard index, or is that more indicative of 40K as a whole?
I think that's in a little bit of the guard index, but mostly overhead the whole game is at this moment in time. Really, you kind of have to play the middle. You can sit back and you can table your opponent in 5 turns, but if they score all the primary all the points and their scores are like 100 to your like 60,
Hmm.
but they don't have an army, they still won the game.
Yeah,
Like, and that's the approach I'm taking with the guard, flood in the middle more. Still have guns behind, just enough guns to make people respect you, but not all of the guns in that regard there because you don't need all of the guns.
yeah.
But you still have like a good amount of firepower that is backing the push elements with the Bullgryn and with the other elements there with the Catachans, Chimeras, and Kasrkin.
Yeah. It sounds like this has been a big development of your play over the, several years. Because I remember, again, in the previous interview, you were talking about how, Guard was always kind of the army that you liked playing. It was always the thing that kind of spoke to you. Could you speak a little bit more as to why is it Guard that has always been the thing you come back to?
So it's just it's just a human with a gun in front of, because when you really put it into perspective, there's superhumans, there's aliens, there's genetically modified like mushrooms, there's elves, and then there's, in front of this chaotic universe where war is strife and war is endless,
Mm.
you have the humble man protecting his like like planet, his
His
system,
home.
his family at home, his home, and he's just going out there to face all of these monstrosities. He's got to fight whatever the fuck just came out of that guy's chest with a torch in his hand and a belief in his heart that he's gonna make it back.
Yeah.
And that is inspiring. And
Awesome.
that's
So
why that's why I take superhumans as well. Bullgryn.
nice, nice. So did it start then as like a lore thing when you first started playing
Yeah,
Guard?
100%.
Hmm.
100%. I was into the lawn and I bought my first models properly in November 2018. I remember because I still have the memory that comes up. November
Nice.
2018. And it was I remember because at the time I had like a guard box unopened and a space marine box unopened. And I was like, these guys are better. They're cool. I like that a little more. And I was like, how much more expensive can it be? A lot more. So, apparently 10 cages were a lot cheaper than 10 Space Marines. So yeah,
Yeah.
I got in there. But
Nice.
yeah.
Do you also like read the books or like how do you digest the lore?
Just through different channels via YouTube really
Yeah.
is the way I do it mostly.
Any shout outs for them?
I don't remember them off the top of my head, to be fair. So it's just yeah, I'll just see. I'm like, yeah, I'll listen to
That's
that
fair.
as
Put
I
that one on
reluctantly
painting some
paint. Yeah,
things. Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of
as I
sense.
reluctantly paint. Yeah, just
Yeah, I
uh,
can tell. I mean, there's a lot of people. I think that's one of the cool things about the hobby, right? Is you have people who are hobby first, and you have like game first, and you have like lore first, and like everybody can, dabble in all these different parts of it at the same time. Now,
exactly,
I'm
100%.
kind of curious then. So it sounds like, if you had your druthers, if you could do whatever you wanted, you would just bring a lot of really big guns. Do you think that's always been true for the way you've played?
Oh, if I could just take big guns. I'd say initially when I first started, 100%. I was just like damage.
Damage.
Where can I maximize damage?
Yeah.
This is not efficient damage. I'm not taking it. And then slowly and I say this has been more of a transition over the course of the last year really because WCW last year I had indirect and just damage and I had minimal midboard and then I thinking that was an issue. And I made a slow transition. Like I still want some damage in the list. I still want respectable damage in the list, but I want to control the middle. I want to do damage here. I want to have, rather than a big unit that does a loads of damage, I want to have loads of different incremental units. Damage adds up. It stacks up. Like quite similar to how Eldar play now. Before they used to have the 10 man Wraith Guard, but now they've got, for example, 5 different units, 4 to 5 different units shooting at something, and then picking it up. Sorry, I can
Yeah.
just hear my just trying to get
Is
in.
he trying to open your door?
Keep trying to get in.
That's so funny. I remember, so I have a cat too, and at one point we started realizing he knew how to open our doors, and I remember, uh, I brought him in because, he kept clawing under the bathroom door as I was,
Yeah.
as I was in there, and so I was like, okay, fine, get in here. And then I got a photo of him just like reaching up like this, like pull on the door handle. I was like, oh no, we caught
No,
you,
he's
you
learned.
little bastard.
Yeah. Oh, this one's not as smart as that. He was just trying to physically tear the door up from the bottom. I just
That's
hear it
so
for the last
funny.
5 minutes. I'm like, okay, we'll just let him in now.
Fair enough. How many pets do you have? Is it just Oreo?
It's Oreo and Luna, another cat.
Nice.
She's more of a diva.
More of a diva. You have to go to her to give her the attention. She's not
Yeah,
going to demand it.
exactly. She'll still let you pick you up when she'll come to you when she wants
Oh,
attention.
hello, Luna.
Uh,
That's
Diva.
awesome. Yeah. So, so going back a little bit into the game, right? You had this development, realizing you needed more of a bit more of the mid board, and I feel like part of that, from what I've heard, is you have this reputation of just being really, really good at pushing differentials when you need to. How did you develop that skill?
To be fair, I don't think that's something I developed. I've just always wanted to just innate aggression of
Yeah,
being like, oh, I could win this game this one. Like I won the game. All right, let's just push the boundary a little bit more. Let's see what we can do. And that's just over low dozens and dozens and dozens of games of. All right, I know I'm gonna win this game. Let's just keep pushing and seeing how much more I can get out of this.
yeah,
And then over loads of trial and error, be like, all right, I shouldn't have pushed here. I've lost points because of this. And just doing that over the course of hundreds of games over the last few years, it kind of it's more subconsciously develop it rather than consciously be like something I want to improve on.
gotcha.
Um, that
Yeah,
regard.
because I remember hearing that. 'Cause it definitely sounds like your reputation has gone from being like this very aggressive but a little bit inconsistent kind of player to someone who is very consistent. I think like even seeing like we saw where you're talking to your coach is like, hey, I can push here. Is it okay if I do so? Speaks a little bit to that kind of growth. So I'm actually kind of curious then in general. Um, how would you like relate that to other players, right? So for people who are like me, like I'm consistently going like 3-2 at most of my GTs, right? Sometimes I'll hit a 4-1, sometimes I'll go 2-3. But what kind of things would you give to those kind of players to try and develop that same kind of mindset?
So the way I got better when I was playing, because I was like, if you go back before COVID, I was terrible. I
We
was
all start somewhere.
yeah, it's like I was going like 1-4. Like I remember I showed screenshots to some people who didn't believe me. I was like, dude, I was terrible at this game. Um, just it's a lot of and a lot of practice with a selection of armies.
Hmm.
Like with myself, because I usually played quite a lot of Space Marines and like Iron Hands at the time. And that's what I owned, so I only played the models I owned. I played it, playing hundreds of hours on TTS and over COVID with my list, a specific type of list, and just really getting to know what my list strengths are, what my list weaknesses are, what I do this in all of these specific matchups. Like in my head, I already knew going into a game when I was playing my Marines. All right, this is not a great game for me. I have to play it this way and capitalize on mistakes that he makes on this, and that, and just really getting better at that. And those are core game fundamentals.
Hmm.
And where when you really get to start to improve at that, then you can be like, oh, I'm going to switch armies because this army is the best army in the game. I'm going to switch to that now, and I'm going to transfer those core game fundamentals.
Yeah,
Whilst a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll take the best army, they're still developing the fundamentals, and then they'll move over to this other army, and they're like, all right, now I need to develop the fundamentals for this army, and I transition some of them across, but it's not 100% aligned.
yeah,
Like the army plays a bit differently. I've kind of learned in a new army. I actually know what I'm doing. What does it like? What do my data sheets do? What do my abilities do? Rather than going in with, all right, I know what my army does. I know how I have to how I have to deploy. Bam, bam, bam,
yeah.
bam, bam.
So it sounds like it's mostly, you're saying just be good at Warhammer, and then you're going to be good at any faction. I mean, okay.
I'm
It sounds like a joke, but I found that a lot, right? Especially when I'm playing with some other players, is like, I can tell you know exactly what all of your data sheets do, but you don't know how to stand on circles properly, right? And that can be a massive change in just like, oh my God, as soon as like people have that realization, it's like, yeah, like you said earlier, it's like I can table my opponent, but if I'm not scoring any points, it doesn't matter.
exactly
Yeah.
that.
So that's really interesting then. So kind of from what we've been seeing then is, you just got to get in a lot of games, try a lot of things. You're going to lose a lot of games like along the way. It's like, oh, that didn't work, but
Yeah,
you'll find
you will.
Yeah.
Well, and I just don't like to lose in general. So like it's always a tough pill to swallow. But you, at the end of the day, as long as you yourself are being honest with yourself about how you're progressing, then and you're not fooling yourself, then you will get better.
Yeah.
And like there's no such thing as a get good quick button. It's all incremental progress. Like even now, I'm still getting better as a player. Like there's higher heights to go compared to where I'm at right now,
Yeah.
100%.
Now,
But that's all incremental growth.
So the immediate question then that raises, because you're obviously, you're one of the highest ranked on the ITC, you're one of the highest rated on the stat check elo, right? I'm actually really curious, what do you perceive the difference is between your play and people like Manny Chima, who was the last WCW winner, right? What do you need to do to feel like you've caught up? Or do you
Uh,
feel like you've caught up, and what can you do to surpass them?
I think it's definitely so each player, and I think has their own strengths and weaknesses. And I think what you can do is just develop on your own strengths. Except what your weaknesses are, do your best to mitigate it. But some people try to be too rounded as a player, like
Hmm.
have, master of none, jack of all trades, which is like it's fine, but it's better to I think actually to hone in at what you're good at. For example, I'm good at pushing differential, but I'm more like so I've been trying to develop. All right, how do I push differential? But instead of not, and how do I know when to not push a differential and play a little bit safer?
Hmm.
So like really honing on that because like I'm good at the other things, but this is one of my strengths. So honing on this and be like, all right,
Gotcha.
this person's made this mistake there that I've known from practice. I can push now. I can get a bigger win out of this rather than like I was getting like a 5 point win. Now I can get 25 point win because I made that one mistake and I can
Yeah.
blow that out. And just really honing in and really improving at your own strengths at the
Yeah.
game. And just but that's also you have to understand what your strengths are at the game.
Hmm. Now, an interesting thing there, because you're talking a lot about that differential part of it. When you compare teams and singles, do you have a priority when it comes to that?
Uh, I think definitely developed more towards team. I mean, I still enjoy singles. Like I'm
Yeah.
still going to singles events.
I mean, you can't be a good
Um,
teams player if you're not also a good singles player. Yeah.
like it's definitely transferable,
Yeah.
100%. I would say being good at teams is more transferable than and because if you're good in a teams format, you'll likely be very quite good at singles. If you're quite good at singles, doesn't always transition well to teams. You kind of
Hmm.
have to learn that in that regard there.
Yeah.
But each has its own strengths because in singles you're trying to be more all comers, have more answers towards the meta. In teams you're like, all right, these three matchups horrendous for me. These other five I can screw more to play that and I can beat that now.
Yeah. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So going back a little bit to kind of you as a player, we talked about all of your big guns. We talked about everything coming through. Let's do a little bit of speculation right now because we just learned about the new kill team with the Tempestus
Oh, I'm
Aquilons.
excited. Give me fire and fades.
Fire and Fade.
Please, fire and fades. Please. Oh,
I've heard a lot of what do you call it, speculations, like people are talking about 3-inch deep strike, fire and fade, like 12-inch move fly. I'm assuming we're probably going to get 12-inch move fly. What do you think and what are
yeah,
you hoping?
I'd hope so, right?
You'd
I
imagine
hope
so.
they
They're
get 12
jump
inch
pack
move fly.
infantry.
Yeah, the drop back infantry.
Yeah.
Now, if they get fire and fade, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
I just be happy. That's enough. Because did you see the weapons? You still get plasmas. You get melt mine with the sound squad.
Yeah.
You can
Looks
have
great.
yes.
You
Get a
know,
melted
deep strike
mine.
9, fire and fade forward, chuck a meltamine. Like sounds good to me.
Okay, yeah, I'm done, mate. It's
Yeah.
done, sorted. It's like and like they still got the plasmas, the melt. So they still have all the special weapons,
Hmm.
and I'm just like yes, just take my money now. Just
Yeah. Now
give me the rules and
I'm
take my
curious
money.
then. So let's say it's a 9-inch deep strike. They have a 12-inch move with fly and fire and fade and a meltamine. How many
30,
points would you?
30.
Well, is that how many
Oh
points
no.
would you pay for that unit?
Oh, okay. Well, uh, let's go with a comparison with other units, right? That are
Hmm.
similar. It's like Sweeping Hawks, they have the exact same keywords. Maybe the weapons are not as good, but
Yeah.
and those are 85 for 5.
Hmm.
So we are not Space Marines. We're Imperium. We're slightly worse. We're not as fast. So 100. I think you probably compare it to the other infantry 10-man infantry units that move 12s, like Seraphim and stuff like that. So probably in up to 160 to 170 for 10, which sounds expensive. But if you have like a fire and fade ability built in, then it's
Yeah.
somewhat fine.
I mean that
If you
unit
don't,
sounds
then maybe a bit cheaper.
nasty for 170, right? Because not only are
Yeah,
you, you drop in, you kill anyone off, you kill chaff off a point, but then you can also do like 2d3 to a vehicle. Like,
yeah.
I'd pay
Then
170 for that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly that, right? But if it's like you drop in, your toughness free, you can't find fair, you're like maybe a bit cheaper because it's almost like a one use. Like
Yeah.
the toughness free, you probably lose half to an Overwatch.
Yeah. Okay, now that's actually an interesting thing because a lot of people have been looking at Scions right now, and especially on Pariah Nexus boards, people have been really liking them. But I know in like UKTC, I keep exhaustive track of what everybody's playing and they're doing well, and I have been noticing that like indirect is super powerful over in the UK, but in the United States, basically no one's playing it.
That's surprising, just because I've been just in my own bubble. I'm
Yeah.
only just I like I'm getting out from under my rock. I'm like, what's
What
going
is
on here?
happening in the rest of the
Like, what
world?
is
Yeah.
happening? And just like no one's taking Bullgryn. It's like, what, people taking Rogue Gaunt? What's going on here?
That's so
I'm just
funny.
out of my cage.
Oh yeah, you're all this is still news to you. Yeah, it's been super
Yeah,
interesting just like to track.
it's all genuinely just still news to me.
Yeah.
I'm still just trying to figure it all out.
Yeah.
Don't
Okay,
you
well,
worry.
while we're looking at your little bubble, right, we can speculate a little bit on what the other guard players were doing because there was several Dorns. There were way more Manticores and Basilisks being brought at WTC than they've been brought to a lot of singles events. Is there any speculation as to why they've been so popular at this event in particular?
What for the Manticore? I can't see anything specifically.
Yeah.
Maybe I could see the argument for the Earthshaker carriages and the Basilisks because they've got more shots,
Mhm.
cheaper. It gives a slow effect. Manticores just feel like they probably outlived their usefulness.
Fair. Yeah.
Personally, uh,
Okay.
it's a lot of points in the back.
I do have one very funny thing to kind of ask you. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was because I realized that we share a Discord, the tryhard one, and you put Cap is calling about
Oh yes.
something. So do you remember what was it about that you're like,
I think it was one of the T Mining boys pissed tried to say, yeah, he can with the T Suns he can play the guard to a draw, and I was just like, no, you
no?
can't. Just absolutely zero chance this happens.
Yeah.
You get smashed.
You get smashed by Thousand Suns?
No, they get smashed by
Oh, okay,
guard.
yeah. I was gonna say we had a lot of guard into Thousand Suns over like this past week, so it makes a lot of sense. Is there any matchups right now that you particularly fear as a guard player?
Dark Angels, but even then, it's like, to be fair, it's mainly just the Marine variants.
Hmm.
Archetypes that can put a lot of pressure on you very quick, very early from like the get go,
Yeah,
or like an issue just for guard in general. But if they're not doing that, then it's usually okay. It is usually fine.
fair.
In that
All
regard.
right. All right, let's go back to speculating a little bit more on the scene because we have a data slate right around the corner.
God,
I've heard like late August, early September. What
not
kind of
really.
things are you hoping for, and what kind of things are you fearing?
I'm fearing more guard deaths for God knows what reason. And what am I? I'm hoping Dark Angels get a little bit of a toning down.
Hmm.
Blood Angels get a bit of a toning down. Just Marines just get a bit of a toning down. They're just very, very good. Eldar hits another nerf, just for good measure. Um, T Sun's another nerf, just for good measure. Everyone to get nerfed, to be fair. Everyone's to.
Everything but guard, right? Everything but
Oh,
guard.
sisters do need a nerf.
Sisters do
Generally,
need a nerf.
I think sisters, Bringers of Flame specifically, and the Marine variants need a bit of a toning
Gotcha.
down. Apart from that, I think the game's in a pretty good spot.
Mhm.
Like God still has its bad matchups
Yeah.
in that regard.
Is there anything
That and
in guard that you think could afford to come down in points?
most of the most of the index. It was most of the index. Like I think I joke, I go like two to three times a day just going through um
Through the app, yeah.
just go through the app and be like, is there anything else that I could add? It's like, no, too many points, too many points, too many points, too many points, too many points. I just can't find it. It's just not.
That's interesting because I know I was making a joke with another one of my friends recently where we made a random list generator where we took, every unit that anybody has gone X and 1 at a GT and just put that in a random list generator and it would spit out something like, okay, you have like 220 bricks of Krieg and like, 6 Bullgryn and like a Basilisk and there's like a Rogaldorn. It's like, that list sounds okay, right? Because I've heard a lot of people say is like the guard is really just propped up by data sheets. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's pretty much, I think, a lot of what we have going for us.
Yeah,
We don't have stratagems really.
we
Like,
have
I think
reinforcements.
we have reinforcements once per game, and I don't think I used the extra AP a single time at
Yeah,
WTC. I think most of my strats were, I used -1 damage twice. Like I mean, like on two occasions over how many battle rounds that I played.
Yeah, like
Um,
6 or 7 or something. Yeah,
yeah, of course
six or
for
seven
7 games,
games. Yeah. So
like
35.
35 battle rounds. I used
Yeah.
it twice.
Yeah.
Um, and most of the other things is I pop smoke and grenades and tank shot.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just those are my god strategies. Like tank shot, grenade, and smoke.
Makes
It's like
sense.
like it's what I have.
All right.
It's not much.
I've got a hot take for you as well. So one of the things that
Well,
I've been saying for a while is I think that the single best thing, because like Guard has not been above a 50% win rate, according to Stat Check in like this entire edition, right? I think the single best thing Games Workshop could do for the Guard, our win rate, is if you dropped Cadians from 60 to 55. Not because like most of the top players are going to care, but for every player who's going to their first UT and bringing 60 Cadians, well, now they have 30 more points to play with.
it might help.
It
It helped
would
me.
help a lot. Yeah.
It helped me because I had a list. I was 5 points over, and I had to downgrade some Cadians. I was like,
Oh.
this is going. I was like, oh,
Yeah, those
sad face.
small edges at the very end. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time. So I want to get a couple hot takes from you here. What
Yeah,
is
go.
the number one most overrated unit that people are currently bringing to tournaments in Guard?
In God,
Yeah.
overrated. What people taking to tournaments?
I don't know. Like, what do you hear? You have a very different like experience than the rest of us. People are bringing super heavies and artillery
Yeah,
still, and
yeah, those not good. Well, the super heavies,
mhm.
if you can actually move and shoot them, are pretty good.
Yeah,
I usually can't. I just could not do that.
yeah.
So,
I just had an interview
my,
with Robert Moreland, actually, one of the best guard players here in North America, and he's just like, I've been trying to write lists without super heavies for the past like 6 months, and every single time I was like, but this would have been better with a storm sword. And so as long as you
this,
can move it,
yeah, as long as you can move and shoot it, it's not terrible because it can all get plus and ballistic skill from Leontus. So
yeah.
it's a lot of guns, and it all has lethals now. These other stuff.
Oh no, it doesn't
So
have squadron, so
I don't know.
no
Ah,
lethals. Yeah, but
sucks then. Back in the bin.
back.
Uh, super heavies. Um, I don't understand why people are taking manticores. There we go.
Manticores. All right, there you go.
I don't know why people are taking them.
Yeah,
I
I
don't like them.
I remember at the very beginning of Pariah Nexus when we got the indirect change, David Gaylord in particular was like, "I'm pretty sure Manticore is an auto take because they're the only thing that ever has rerolls. So you're hitting 75% instead of half, and you're just like, no, not on the menu.
When a list wins with manticores that don't hit on 2s or 1s, then I'll be like, you know what? Then it's
Fair.
fine.
When we can direct fire our Manticores, they're good again.
Yeah, if you can direct a fire your manticores and hit on 2s, that's pretty good. Till
Yeah.
then,
Till then, nah. All right,
it's,
makes
it's,
sense.
it's,
Cool. And then on the other side, what are 2 units that people should be really looking at in the index a little bit more, right? It doesn't need to be something you're currently bringing, but something that's like this is like right on the edge of being good, and in the right situations could be absolutely nasty.
on the edge. I think Ogrins are quite good. They're just not there just yet
Hmm.
because they just have nothing that buffs them. They don't benefit from it from lethals. They need a Leontus order, but they're just cheap enough right now where if Bullgryn get nerfed more or for some reason you there's a combo that comes out in the book the way you can buff your Ogrins and they're roughly the same points, then it's like you can start taking them because then for 6 of them for 130 points is like decently cheap. It's 18 wounds with a 6 up fill pin at toughness 6. That has okay combat, okay shooting. It's quite cheap.
Yeah.
It is just quite cheap. It's just not the most durable, but
Yeah.
it is quite cheap.
Yeah. So interesting one on that one actually. So Nick Jagiello, up in Canada, he's been running units of 3 Ogre in Chimeras, and he recently won Toronto Gaming Expo. He got his
Oh,
ticket
nice.
to World Champs. And he's just like, yeah, firing deck, 2 extra bolters in my Chimeras for lethal hits into vehicles. Not bad.
Not bad.
Not
Yes,
bad.
well,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. It's not bad
Yeah.
because I like to have Catachans inside of mine just for the extra flamers usually.
Yeah.
But like Ogrins inside of that, like that's all. Like if you find another 10 points, it's just a straight swap. They can go inside. You've got more shots,
Yeah.
and if you're in rapid fire range for some reason, you like each Ogren like you've got over 12 shots of them. It's like it's not bad.
It's not bad, yeah.
Not bad.
And he's
Not bad at all.
also, I think it's been interesting too, because he has like his lists are running like 20 activations, right? He's got 3 Bullgryn and Chimeras. He's got 3 Ogren and Chimeras, and so each of these are just like that's 8 right there. And you just got a lot of little things. But after that, one more unit that you think people should be like looking at more, right on the
Oh,
edge of being good.
right on the edge of being good. I'm gonna have to get up the thing for this one. I need to remember what other data sheets we have.
Yeah. It's just Bullgryn, Kasrkin, Chimeras, Catachan. What's the rest of it?
What's the rest do again? On the edge of being good,
Hmm.
I think quite generally, I'm on a fringe of this as well. Is like the Primary Strikers are like on the fringe of being pretty damn good.
Yeah.
They're not bad at all, especially now because they're one of the few ways you can do Dev Wounds of God. They hit pretty well. You put them inside of a Chimera, do good damage as well. And they give you volume and Dev. They're good, but they're not good enough to be taken just yet. But
Hmm.
it's close. I
Yeah.
think it's close. A little bit more where you can buff them in any capacity, and I think you will start seeing more and more.
Yeah. So let's say they go down 10 points. Then what would you do with your Primary Psychers? I mean, the traditional things people have done are like Krieg bricks, like 20 Krieg, a Marshal,
Chimeras. Inside
Chimeras.
Chimeras make them hit on twos. Inside
Interesting.
Chimeras make them hit on twos.
Yeah. What about
And then
the
just
Torox Prime with the Scions? So they can get reroll hits and reroll wounds.
talks. Oh,
It's pretty expensive. It's more than a Rogel Dord now to do that.
yeah, sounds Torox Prime, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's a lot of points.
Yeah.
It's a lot of points.
Because, with the
Yeah,
Scions, you get
it's a hot.
reroll hits on things on objectives, and then the
Yeah,
Torox Prime firing support, you're rerolling wounds with the dev wounds.
yeah. I think that's one thing I looked at, and I think what I looked at was like it was just expensive. I could have just taken a tank and then 10 infantry for that price,
Hmm.
and I was like, that's roughly the same thing. You can take Leontus battle tanks as reroll hits,
Yeah.
as lethals, and more shots, and you also have an extra infantry squad compared to that one combo.
Yeah. Makes
But I think
sense.
primary strikers are right there, right on the precipice,
Right on the
right on the
precipice. Fair.
precipice.
Now, I know at the beginning I asked if there's anything you wanted to talk about. You said you wanted to talk a little bit about your team, the War Masters. So, what do we need to know about the War Masters?
Yeah. So, oh man, team I started with some of my mates. Actually, one of them is currently playing on stream. Actually,
Oh, that's awesome.
UKTC leads 40K. He's in the semi-finals. I think he just won. Actually, I think his opponent
Ooh.
conceded.
Is that on Twitch or YouTube or?
Yes, yes, on YouTube. It's like he's actually playing vs Cal Grundy right now,
Oh,
and
wow.
he's
Yeah.
just Cal. So Cal's conceded, I think. Yeah, yeah. I think Cal's conceded, so he ended up winning that one. Jack tight on his sisters. Yeah,
Nice.
it's just a lot of us mates playing together. Always, whoever sees us come and say hi. We're friendly. We don't bite. In that regard, and yeah, just wanted to shout them out. Just because been there since day one. Team helped grow, nurture, and now I think we're definitely reaching the level where we can start competing with some of the bigger teams. Maybe not out of war just yet, but getting close there with Ignite and some of the other Team England members that we play against at other local events.
That's awesome. Yeah. Any future plans that you got going on? You mentioned London GT. Anything after that?
Yeah, I've got London GT coming up. So that's in a few weeks. I'm looking forward towards that. I will be taking. I'll be very. If I don't take God, you can call me. I will
All
go
right,
there.
all right. I'll send it to everybody. Make sure they keep you honest.
Yeah, exactly. Make
Yeah.
sure hold me accountable. I'm taking God unless I somehow found something that's better than God,
Fair.
which is
Okay.
probably not hard, but even then, the
Fair.
babies.
The babies, the professors. Well, where does that come from,
Exactly.
by the way? Why are they the professors?
I've never called them professors. I've
Someone
I've,
else
I've called
did.
them some. Yeah, I've called them something way way worse.
Oh.
I've not called them professors at all. They are the opposite of professors. They're not
Fair
very
enough. Oh, maybe that's
not
what it
very.
was. I think it was the Glasshammer gaming stream was just like, yeah,
Just called them expressive. I probably called them something bad, and then they corrected it to professors. I'm like,
Fair
okay,
enough, fair enough. All
yeah,
right, but
fiance.
all right, London GT, you said you might be coming to LVO.
Yeah, I am going to come to LBR, but
Hmm.
probably will be coming, but we'll see. I'll look more towards December time.
Yeah, makes sense. All right,
All right.
cool beans. Well, with that, any shout outs you want to give before I let you go here, Nassim?
Shout out to my team, Team England. We'll be back next year, stronger, hopefully, with a new, fresh team, and do better,
Do better. There you
do
go.
better, do better than USA, hopefully.
There you go. There's always a classic rivalry. Well, anyway, thank you so much, Nasib, for coming on to
My
this
pleasure.
episode of Tactical
Thanks for having me
Debrief.
on.
And for everyone else, we'll see you all next time.
See you.